maybe. What is up, MOMnation? Happy Tuesday and welcome back to Energy Shift with Erin. I am back with another amazing guest on Energy Shift today. You all know and love her, but this is Jeanine Tripodi. Did I say Tripodi? Is that correct? Awesome. I made a mental note when we talked last week, but I was hoping that I didn't mess that up internally. Jeanine, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I love talking about midlife and such.
Yeah, so I know that you do some of the divorce mom stuff with Katie, and you have been very active in MOMnation. But just as a reminder, who are you? What do you do? And who do you help?
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to describe it as essentially I offer emotional resilience and mental state mastery coaching for women who are navigating midlife, specifically who are navigating divorce. So I work a lot with clients in that phase where they're faced with court mediation or deposition, and they really need to feel confident that they can walk in, maintain composure, and get the best results. So I work with a lot of women in that area. I also help women in that middle section. What is life like after divorce? And then my favorite, finding love in midlife. But through it all, it's about emotional resilience and mental state mastery, understanding our legacy patterning and why we continue to repeat the stories in our life that we do in all areas of life.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so helpful for us in the middle age phase of life. One of the things that Jeanine and I had a quick call last week to meet officially and get to know each other a little bit. And we had talked a bit about perimenopause and the feelings that start to change within us during that phase of life. And I really wanted to dive into that. I work primarily with women in perimenopause or like just before and then through menopause on health and wellness. But I know how important the mindset is to whatever goal you want to achieve, whether it's physical, like wellness transformations, having more energy, financial, navigating divorce. All of these things are really important to really understand our mindset. And you brought up something that you dive into is the shifts that we start to notice when it comes to middle age. And I know I'm 42, I'll be 43 soon. And it is wild. Like nobody really prepares you for the way that you start to think differently, your emotional responses differently. So let's dive into that a little bit and share some wisdom with us. What is that?
Yeah, it's a shit show. No. Just kidding.
It is.
I am 53, soon to be 54. I'm fully menopausal. I will preface all of this by saying the 50s is the best decade of life. I love the 50s. Perimenopause is such an interesting time in life because it really does start at different ages for everyone. And I'm so glad our culture is now talking about it a lot more. I used to be an expert in a Facebook group that focused on midlife perimenopause. And the questions that I often got were, because I went in as the relationship coach aspect of what I do. And the questions I predominantly got were, do I hate my husband or am I in perimenopause? And it's a really interesting question because perimenopause is this massive change, right? That is even more massive than the teenage years of going into your cycles and changing and going through puberty. And it's like we're supposed to just be quiet and accept. And at the same time, I think there's this incredible, powerful place in our lives where we're not losing truth, we're gaining truth. Yeah. We're losing a lot of the inhibitions that we had and we were kind of conformed to in our 20s and 30s and even in 40s, that we're finally able to say in a lot of areas of life, wow, let me think, is this really what I want for me? And now I'm not a proponent of divorce. I'm not a proponent of divorce. I'm a proponent of people joyfully living their life in the best way. I think the point of life is love and relationships, and we get there with human connection. I think that it's beautiful when relationships grow together, and unfortunately, sometimes for a million reasons, they don't. So that's just so nobody thinks I'm out here saying get divorced, because I'm not. I think menopause is a portal for a lot of us, and I always say it's our uprising, and I don't mean that. I mean, I kind of tease the language of like it's an uprising, but what I'm really trying to say is it's an opportunity in your life now to reevaluate who you are and what you want, because a lot of us have a second chapter during this life where our children, if we've had children, are at the age where they might be going off to college, they might be, leaving the nest. And then it is a real sort of, I was going to use the word reckoning, but I think that's a bit harsh, but it's a time to evaluate, what brings joy. So I do think the hormonal shifts create this natural catalyst for change, and it strips away autopilot, this autopilot version of us that is moving through the days, getting our babies raised, making the home, working if we're working outside of the home, all of it, right? And I'm not just saying it's not just for women, by the way. Men go through the equivalent, andropause, and that's never talked about. Like, I can't wait till the guys start getting on podcasts talking about that and how it impacts. That's a very long answer to your question. I could keep talking, so go ahead.
No, that was really great, and I appreciate it. I kind of like the term reckoning. I feel like I'm a little bit there. Like, I've dropped the people pleasing, but yeah. Something I have noticed, and I'm sure that there's a lot of women who will resonate, is I do struggle with relationships in general right now, because a lot of what I did prior was built and surrounded by people pleasing, family relationships, friendships, and intimate relationships as well. And what I'm wondering is if you could shed some light, or like we can dive a little further into how do we navigate a new sense of being, a new kind of a personality shift, while still recognizing the fact that like we do love these people. Like, do you recommend having conversations with them, conversations with self? Like, what are some coaching or therapeutic techniques that you could start to work on? Because what I have noticed is like I cannot differentiate between the fact, like, some days I want to crawl into my little hole bubble and not see humans at all, and then sometimes I really miss human connection and the friendships that occurred in younger years. Because as you get older, friendships are harder to keep together. But I also do think that like my relationship with my husband is often better when I do have friendships and relationships that are active and fulfilling outside of the home space. So how do we start to think about that constructively?
I love what you said, and I'm trying to make mental notes, which I should remember. I'm in menopause and those don't work very well. But so many things. Number one, yes, girlfriends are huge. Friends are huge all through our lives, particularly in menopause. And I think one of the things to remember is we can't expect everything from one person. And a lot of times in relationships, people expect their partner to fill every need for them. And that is a whole other conversation. But I love that you pointed out that like some days I just want to curl up in a ball. Other days I want to be with my friends, and all of it makes my relationship better, is what I heard you say. I think number one, if you think you're going through peri, find qualified support. So there's so many aspects of perimenopause, and I am not a perimenopause expert in the medical side of things. So you definitely, I would encourage you to talk to your OBGYN or a hormone specialist to understand how it could impact you. And I'll give you an example. I knew I had a hysterectomy after my twins. So they left, little detail here, they left the ovaries. So I wasn't really sure when I was going to start going into menopause or perimenopause, because the ovaries will still kick for a long time, and then suddenly they'll just realize there's no point. So what I didn't realize was not just the physical. There's some basic physical symptoms that we have that are pretty indicative, but I was unaware that anxiety was a major symptom for a lot of women. And so just a couple of years ago, about my 50th, I suddenly had intense anxiety with panic attacks. Never in my life had a panic attack before. And I had survived a 20-year dysfunctional marriage. The last 10 years of my marriage was very dysfunctional. And I didn't know what was happening. Like at one point I was like, I went to my OBGYN for another reason. And I said, I think I'm going crazy. And she looks at me and she's like, yeah, you've got no progesterone in your system. I wasn't sleeping, all of these physical things. So quickly find the medical support or naturopathic support or whatever way you want to go so that you have the information and can make the choices that you want to make. On the mental and mindset side, I think the word that kept, like, I'm a very visual person. And speaking of energetics, I'm also a Karuna Reiki master. So I love frequency and energy and how that connects the mind, body, and soul, which connects with your subconscious mind. My point being, literally and figuratively, the frequency of the changes in our body, the word acceptance is what lands. So as you're talking about, even things are different. I want to sleep and I want to move, or I don't want to move, or I want to be with friends. Accepting that this is a phase in life and not trying to resist it so much is huge, because we all know the more you resist, you persist, right? You know what I'm saying? So accepting that this is a different phase in life, accepting that we go through phases in life and we can create new normals. And this is so pertinent after grief, after major life change. This is a major life change. So taking it as an opportunity to evaluate the emotional truths that are rising up. Your estrogen drops, but your tolerance for bullshit drops too, right? So I think that recognizing that irritability or restlessness are not weaknesses. They're more signs that there's a deeper truth trying to surface, and be curious about that. That's a very therapeutic thing to say, but like, be curious. And by the way, I'm not a therapist. About what it is. Yeah. I'm curious how that has shown up for you and what tools have you used? Because fitness is a huge one. Getting movement in different ways and treating fitness differently. And the connection between, I was about to ask you a question and I kept going, but a lot of my clients come to me and they're like, I need to do something. I mean, I even experienced this. I need to do something different with my body. What I did in my 20s and 30s does not work in my 50s. And there was a period of time that was so frustrating, to the point where I almost just gave up, like, come on. So again, accepting this is my incredible body that got me here. What do I do next?
Yeah.
How do you help your clients with that?
Yeah, it is really hard. I mean, all of this is hard because our emotions are changing, our hormones are changing, our bodies are changing. And what we have to know about going into menopause, perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause is that our bodies are a lot more susceptible to high stress. And so we're going to see a lot of negative biofeedback if we're not carefully monitoring that. So we can't, my 20s were full of cardio and aggressive dieting and too much drinking and all of those things that are pretty high stressors, that my body could tolerate that then. And if you think about it, like, really, it starts to transition in our mid 30s. So there isn't that much of a period of time between 20s and, like, you hit 29 and then you're 35 and you start to notice some different shifts in the way that you're thinking, the way that your body is appearing. And there's a lot of things that go into it, but most of it is managing stressors, eating to fuel your body as opposed to always restricting it, paying attention to things like muscle mass for hormonal and metabolic health. All of those things are, I mean, for me, have definitely been a game changer. And it's something obviously I have done for a long time, but even I have had to shift in the ways that I eat and move to accommodate how my body is changing going into perimenopause. Like I cannot do aggressive caloric deficits. I can't, and the truth is I can't fit as many fun foods into my routine as I once did. And that's a really hard thing for people to let go, especially women who are already prioritizing health and wellness. It's a little different if that falls by the wayside and then you're getting back into it. But for those of us, there's a lot of people that really get frustrated because you have to drink less alcohol and you have to go out to eat less and you have to really pay attention to things like fiber. And because the body does adjust, the gut health is hugely important during this time, and always. Liver health is hugely important during this time. And those things, like there's a lot of food and beverage catalysts that can make those things harder. And it is a shift. Like you do have to start thinking and navigating things differently. And when you're already feeling imbalanced, creating another level of imbalance in eating and movement is really, really challenging. So it's kind of navigating the emotions that come with it, as well as being okay with accepting a new identity. Like I can't be the girl that goes out to happy hour a couple times a week with friends anymore. Like I just can't. Like I have to be. We can be walking buddies,
right?
But it just doesn't work the same as it once did.
And that is such. I mean, that could be received, and it is received by a lot of women as a negative. Yeah. But the shift of perspective of considering it an opportunity to live in a different chapter, right? Like, yes, we're used to going out, having happy hours, things like that. And yeah, there's alternatives. You can have soda water, you could do things like that. But shifting the mentality around it and the expectation of what those things mean to you. What does it mean when I can't go hang out with my friends and, stay up till 3 a.m. and not feel horrible the next day and all these things? I mean, that's just like dancing or whatever. And how do you incorporate this idea of what you want to be? One of the exercises that I do with clients is, it's so helpful and it would be so applicable here. Who do you want to be? Like, we don't ask ourselves that enough. Who do we want to be? Not who were we and how are we going to maintain that, but who do you want to be today? Right. Yeah. And then really thinking about it, not just like all aspects. So one of the activities that I do, if I can share it here, is journal, right? Forget the word journal. People think journal and they all sigh. Write down on a piece of paper or audio with your phone while you're taking a nice walk. Who is the new next level you? What does she look like? How does she feel? Really important on the feeling side. And what does she want? Like, if nothing else was into play. So I just did this. I live near Freestone Park. I do this 10 minutes a day, at least 5 days a week. I try to do it every day, but sometimes I don't leave here. And you really embody your future next level self. How she feels, how she views the trees as she's walking by, what she notices in the air, the sounds of the trees, and smiling at the neighbors. Whereas maybe there'd be another day that I was just like in my head about what's going on and I'm not doing that. And if you can do that 10 minutes a day, if you can literally put yourself in that emotional state where you've got visualization, emotional connection, and perspective, you shift into that next level person. That is how we manifest. That is how we, all of those buzzwords around making a quantum shift in our lives. It all comes down to, like, here's the spoiler, everyone. You can pay millions of dollars for all the courses, or I could just tell you in 1 minute. Repeat it, feel it, and believe it. That is how you reprogram your subconscious mind. And that subconscious mind is running 95% of your show. You're living in the, autopilot. That's my specialty. Helping people understand that the decisions they're making right now are made by 95% of the 95% of the time are made by the subconscious mind. You and I are talking in this 5%. We're going to slip back into that 95% the moment we get off and we start to do something else. Yeah. So adjusting that 95% by way of utilizing the 5% in this exercise really creates shift and acceptance. And you can let go of those old ties to feeling badly that you're not doing the things you did in your 20s or 30s. Or does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad you brought that up in such a positive capacity. And I think part of the problem is, as women, is we fall very deeply into our roles, especially when we're younger, wife, mom, job title. And then we get a little older, and you're a little bit older than me, but we grew up, similar era. And there wasn't a whole lot of conversation about women past 40. It was like you saw women in their 20s and women in their 30s, but women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s were just golden girls.
No kidding. I was just going to bring that up. Like, they looked ancient. They were 50.
Yeah, they were my age. And we know now that 40s, 50s, 60s, it's not old. You don't have, there's still life to live. You just have to figure out what the next role is. And so when you're navigating that, it sounds really good, right? So, but how do we start to figure that out? Because, we're ingrained with become a wife, become a mother, and a lot of us do those things, and it's great, then that starts to shift as we, come out at, just like you said, if you have kids are going off to college or whatever, you're not a mom, but you're not a mom in the same capacity as when you had toddlers and those kinds of things. So you do have an opportunity to reinvent yourself. And I talk about this a lot in my content and with my clients. It's you can use aging as a negative, or you can use it as a positive. you have more time now to work on who you want to be, and moves in your career, moves with your body composition, or doing, getting on podcasts, or, whatever, speaking your truth and who you are. But it's really hard because I don't remember seeing women that I wanted to be or look up to that were older. They literally were just golden girls, and they were old.
Yeah. And they were silly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And they were quiet. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I do is when I'm feeling, it's really all about, I lead everything by feeling. So if I'm feeling a little disconnected, or I'm feeling a little hesitant or apprehensive about next steps, whether it's my personal life, business. I have a daughter who's a senior this year. She's going off to college. My mind, I know I will be devastated. She wants to go to Vermont. I want to support her. My daughter went to ASU, and because she couldn't have coffee with me in the morning, I cried for weeks, right? So a gratitude list. I literally will write down the things that I'm grateful for about my life, so that it's not an either or. It's the definition of ambivalence is holding two opposing emotions in the same moment. So having gratitude for, being a mom to these amazing kids, and then recognizing the beauty of them being strong enough to take their own next steps, and not stopping there. And then understanding that, I have a life as well. A lot of times when we have kids, we devote so much to our children. And even if we're working outside of the house and have partners who are active, there is a whole level of kids come first, right? This is an opportunity now to be prioritizing ourselves, and not to the detriment of our children or spouses either, just in a different way of asking, what do I really want? What makes me happy? And that is another thing. A lot of gals just don't know. They don't know what makes them happy. Yeah. And that is I will repeat that question. What brings you joy? What does joy even feel like? We have to get down to the granular. I don't even know what joy feels like. Does it start in your chest? Think of a time when you felt joyful. Where does it start in your physical body? Oh, yeah. And people can start to recognize, right? When I go horseback riding, I just light up inside. That's joy. Do more of that.
Yeah.
So identifying how you feel, it's all connected, your mind, body, and soul.
So I want to circle back to the relationship conversation, especially because I think there's a lot of women who are navigating, especially in their intimate relationship, boyfriend, husband, wife, wherever you are. And part of that I feel like has to be because we are changing and they're not changing. I see this a lot with my clients who are trying to improve their health and wellness. And I always tell them we can't micromanage adults. Like but how do you start to differentiate like what is healthy in the relationship, what you should let go, and when you need to start having like real conversations with yourself, whether it's again an intimate relationship or a friendship. I've noticed for myself too, as I've gotten older, some of my friendships, when I look back on it, were not super healthy. They were toxic, and I've been able to shift some of those relationships too. But there is a fine line between like, they say that I think, I don't remember the question, but it was something like, are you healing, or have you removed so many people from your life that you're just avoiding problems, because there's always going to be problems. So how do we start to like differentiate between our emotions, positive relationships, and the change that we're trying to apply to our lives if other people are not shifting with us?
Yeah. So number one, when people work on themselves and we elevate, right, with positive changes, not everyone in your circle or sphere is going to be comfortable with it. They aren't. Some people will be inspired by it. And we're talking as simply as your energetic shift because you're approaching life in a different way. You have more understanding, you're elevating. Some people will be inspired by it to watch it. Some people will be supportive. And then some people will find a discomfort with it just being in your space because it reflects to them something different. And whenever we react in a relationship, the first question that I'll ask myself is, what does this say about me? And it's not something I did in my 20s. So I was just having a conversation with my friend Jen before I got on this call. When someone irritates me inexplicably, and I'm just like, I just have a nudge there, my first question is, what is it about this? How do it make me feel? And invariably, I'll be like, it feels like. And so I'll give you a specific example. I was speaking with someone and I just felt yucky. Like I just didn't trust the person and I felt yucky and I felt like she was trying to get something from me and it was very uncomfortable. And she's a friend of mine. And immediately I started feeling a very familiar way. And I asked myself, like, and my immediate response was to just step back and be like, I'm done. I asked myself, what is this familiar feeling? And it was very directly connected to my marriage that I've been out of for 6 years, by the way. But it was in the same vein. And I like to describe it as it smelled similar. And so, of course, I've just recalled all of those patterns that I had through that experience and I laid them all out on her. So was I reacting because she bothered me in that way? Or was I reacting because I have, 20 years of patterning that is associated with that smell? It was the patterning. So the first thing I would say to you is when someone says they're having conflict with somebody, what is this really about? What is it about? What is it showing me about myself? And if you can honestly say, I don't think it's me. I don't think I'm holding this. I think it's a very clear separation. That's when the conversations start to happen with the other person. Like this is what you've said and it's really upsetting to me and here's why. Far too many times we just react with this patterning. You made me feel this way. You did this, you did that. And the other person is often confused by it. And there's where the conflict begins. You're just projecting a lot of the patterning. So understanding the difference between the reality of the relationship and your own patterning is the number one thing. And that is super huge in marriages and relationships because you've got patterning with the relationship and with the individual, not just the individual, but the idea of marriage, the idea of the relationship.
Yeah.
So differentiating that and being brutally honest with yourself. And that takes a lot of courage.
It does.
For me, I'm going to admit to this. Answer for me was she was about to create something that and this is so embarrassing to admit, but I'm admitting it to thousands of people because I'm not alone. And I'm not a jealous person by any means. I think there's more than enough for everyone. But there's something that she's doing that I always wanted to do and never could for a million reasons of my complicated life before. And there was a part of me that heard my ex-husband kind of quelch that. And I was able to unfold. I wasn't frustrated at what she said. I was frustrated. There was a little jealousy in there. There was patterning. And so lucky for her, she didn't have to hear all of it. I was able to kind of process that myself.
No, that's so interesting. And thank you for being vulnerable, because I do think there's a lot internally that we can work on. Yes, people do things that are negative, or yes, people do things that are annoying, but you're right. I think usually when there is a trigger, and it's not, nobody called you stupid, or, they didn't call you a bitch, it wasn't like a conflict of that nature. It was just an internal feeling, and being able to recognize that it's something that was a trigger from the past, or a negative relationship behavior, or even like wanting to do what she's doing. It's not, that's normal. We're human. Go through that as humans. Yeah. But being able to recognize that and call yourself out is so huge in the process as well.
Yeah. And not judging, right? Not judging myself. Now, if I had reacted and was crappy to her, I would have all sorts of guilt and shame. And then there'd be so many more layers there. But the act of that pausing and asking yourself, what is this about? What is this showing me? That is, if I could leave you with like the one tip of the original question you asked, it would be the power of the pause. Taking that pause before you react and reflecting, what is this really about? What is this really about? And giving yourself time to figure it out. Could be 5 seconds. It could be 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So that creates less reactivity, more responsiveness. And that's what we want in all of our relationships. So when your husband or partner leaves the toilet seat up, well, I guess that would be a husband, most likely, male, leaves the toilet seat up, and you get really pissed off. What are you really pissed off about? Are you pissed off because you sat down and it was cold at 2 a.m? Maybe. But does that rage that fills you up, what is that really about? Is it because you feel disrespected? You don't feel like a priority? You don't feel like you'd go the extra mile? What is it really about? Yeah. And then that's what you have the conversation about, not put down the toilet seat.
Well, yeah, I love that, because you're right. Especially, we usually are triggered by something small, but it's the big overall picture that we are really bothered by. Like, nobody cares if there's socks on the living room floor. Right. What are those socks representing? I know we've talked about this quite a bit, but I think it can be confusing to start this inner work, especially if you find yourself triggered very frequently. Going on a walk helps, self-reflection helps. But what if you're like super confused about how to, like, you're constantly feeling triggered, which I know that is a pattern, especially as our hormones start to change. Like, what is a small baby step to get started in this like self discovery journey as we navigate middle age years?
Yeah. The very smallest first step I would say is take a walk and breathe. Take a walk and breathe. Yeah. When you're out in nature, there's so many health benefits. Like if you can be with trees, even better. It's kind of hard here with trees, but there's plenty of nature around, right? Getting out there and walking, and sort of that just will start to slow the mind down. That if you wanted to go like micro step, that's the micro step. Breathe. Yeah. Breathe and deep breathe. Don't just.
Yeah. And when you find yourself triggered, having, 5-10 minutes to yourself, it doesn't have to be, I think you say walk too. And I really want this to be tangible for people. Like, you don't have to go on a 30-45 minute walk. It could be 5-10 minutes. Yeah. Just get yourself out
and don't take your phone.
Yeah. That's a big one too. That one's so hard.
So can I throw in like step 2?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So yeah, the 5 or 10 minute walk, just breathing and noticing the sounds around you. even if it's a car, whatever it is, you're just noticing the things around you. And that is an act of beginning to get grounded. Now, while we're focusing on outside of ourselves, it's still how it resonates and feels in your body. So that is number 2, feeling what your body feels like. We're so disconnected that and particularly in times of stress, that we are outside of ourselves so much. And our culture teaches us to remain outside of ourselves, right? It teaches us to create expectations using other people's desires and wishes, and comes into us. There's a lot of conversation behind this. I don't think this is making sense, but when we decide who we want to be, we're deciding in our core who we want to be. We're not looking at society and saying, I want to be thin. No, we're saying, I want to feel good. I want to bend down. I want to move when I'm 70, right? Those feelings are the internal feelings. If we were cavemen, nobody would care about being thin. It's about living, right? So getting back to that place of what is really you, what do you truly want? And how does it feel in your body? And if you can't tell how your body is feeling, like right now, I could even tell you, I feel a buzzing in my hands. I can feel the connection of my legs to the seat, my feet to the floor. Like that's what I mean about feeling in your body. And if you can't feel that right now, go grab an ice cube and focus on the cold in your hand. Start there.
Yeah, I think that is huge. I often feel super disconnected, and that's, I'm lucky that I have wellness in my routine, so I can kind of come back to it. But even for me, like I will work out, and because I own an online business, I'm like in between sets, I'm on my phone it's not good. It's not healthy. I'm constantly overstimulated. And so just the reminder to come back to self. The last thing I wanted to dive into was, you brought it up a couple times, figuring out who you want to be. And I'm glad you brought this up, because I think this is really hard for women to identify as well. You said something about being thin, and that's one of kind of my no goals. Like we can say we need to lose weight for our health, but staying away from, I want to weigh 120 pounds.
Right.
Why?
Right.
How do you want to feel? So let's talk about that. How do we start to determine our identity and set smart goals for ourselves, as opposed to, I want to be the weight I was at 25, those things, like it could happen, it could not happen. You could get there and still not be happy. So like, what is the correct way to set ourselves up for success when we're determining our new identity?
Yeah, I love this. I love talking about this. It's all about feelings. It's all about how you want to feel. So many times, whether it's health related goals, financial goals, we will set a goal. Say, for example, I want that big house down the street. I want that huge house down the street, and I'm going to do whatever I need to do to get it. Or I want to be the CEO of this company, or I want to weigh 120 pounds. And we start going for those goals to get to the end game. So we're walking down this path step by step to get there. And we're not even noticing all of the other doors that are like, hello, you've got all these other paths and options, right? And invariably, the far majority of people who actually make that goal, they arrive there and they don't feel like they thought they were going to feel. They still feel unfulfilled. The house isn't big enough. I want more things. Or this job is great, but there's so much it doesn't feel the way they thought they would feel. So the question there is, how do you want to feel? Is it that you want the big house, or you want prestige? I mean, no judgment. Maybe you want that. Do you want the CEO position, or do you want to feel powerful? And how many other ways could you feel powerful? Do you want to weigh 120, or do you want to feel like your body is this like thriving machine? So how do you want to feel? Quite simply, how do you want to feel in life?
Yeah, I love that. I think that's super helpful to reframe that, because often we do set goals that sound good, 120, big house. And you're right, we will get there and it's still not enough. We're still not happy. And so identifying why, like, what are you really going for, and what, the tangible things in life, or even reaching a goal weight. I have found over and over again, we get people there and they're like, I want to lose another 5 pounds.
Right.
Like, we missed the mark here.
Right.
Like what internal thing are we missing that we need to start working on? I love going by feeling. And I talk about that a lot too. Like, how do you want your body to look? How do you want your body to feel, as opposed to a number? Because we're chasing numbers for no reason most of the time, or
right.
bank account, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, so true.
Cool. Well, you have a little resource for everybody. Will you chat about that a little bit? And we can link it. I can send it over to Skylar. She can link it in the post, or we can just message either one of us and we can figure out how to get it over to you. But what is the resource to start navigating this identity shift and getting yourself into a better headspace?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually have 2 resources. I was thinking of the one, since we were talking specifically about perimenopause, and it's a free downloadable PDF that says, the title is it peri, or are my feelings changing? And it helps you to sort of, excuse me, it helps you to get started on identifying what's really happening in the relationship. So I will send you the link there. And then another really interesting thing I've developed is a quiz. It's an archetype quiz. So I created 4 different archetypes that it's a 3-minute, again, free quiz, 3-minute quiz that will tell you what's really driving your choices. So I've categorized people in 4, obviously, there's millions of people, but 4 basic archetypes. And the information that you get from that quiz is really interesting. It tells you how you likely respond and react in the different areas of life, and sort of what you can do about that. I think that's very helpful. So
yeah,
I'll link to both of them.
I want to take it. So
yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. So let us know. We'll link it in a post here, but if you can't find that, no worries. Just shoot one of us a message. We'll make sure to get that over to you. And Jeanine, thank you so much for being on here today. Is there anything else you want to leave the ladies with this morning?
Yeah. Trust yourself. Trust yourself above every other bit of information that you get in the world. Just trust yourself.
It's so huge. I think we overlook that. It seems simple, but it's so true. We allow the internet, and I think especially in this day and age, to override our own natural instincts, and that's what really creates a lot of problems. So that's such a huge thank you so much. Where can everyone find you when you're not in MOMnation? How do they connect if they're interested in working with you?
I'm on Instagram as Jeanine Tripodi. I'm on Facebook as Jeanine B. Tripodi, B like boy. And my website is JanineTripodi.com. So if you can spell it right, you can find me.
Take a screenshot of her name and find her if you want to work with her, ask her any questions. She does an amazing work. And again, thank you so much for being on Energy Shift today.
Thank you, Erin. It was great talking with you.
Awesome.
Struggling to feel your best? When energy is low and nothing seems to work, it's time for a new approach. Here's someone who guides real people to real, lasting wellness. Meet Erin McDonald, certified master health coach, nutrition coach, and NASM personal trainer. Helping you create simple, lasting routines that support a healthier, more energized you. Feel better, move better, live better. Because health isn't just a goal, it's a lifestyle you deserve. Take the first step toward feeling your best. Your future self will thank you. Connect with Erin today.